Yesterday, I saw the second Beetlejuice movie, and it was fine. In the modern landscape of film, movie companies really seem to be doubling down on what they call the legacy sequel, where apparently we revisit things from 20, 30, sometimes even 40 years in the past, and we provide our own little modern update on it, and, as well as a continuation from characters or events. This year we saw from films like Twisters, but now we have Beetlejuice Beetlejuice, or Beetlejuice 2 as I'll call it for the remainder of the video. I think Beetlejuice 2 kind of walks the line between unnecessary but likable enough to watch, so it's not something that anybody's gonna hate, but I mean, were we in a really big hurry for it? I mean, not really. But hey, at least it's not the worst thing we've seen this year. It's at least a decent approach to what we've got compared to things like Madam Web and among other things that were absolutely atrocious in 2024. And other than occasional problems here and there, I mean, why wouldn't Burn fans like this film? I mean, obviously they're going to get something out of it. Now, granted, I'm not the biggest Burn guy myself, and I only saw this film for the first time about a month and a half ago in preparation for Beetlejuice Beetlejuice. And honestly, my main reason for going initially was, well, I admit, sort of my small crush on Jenna Ortega, but anyway, that was sort of my main reason for going. But obviously, before heading into Beetlejuice 2, you have to watch Beetlejuice 1 to figure out what's going wrong. And thankfully, even though I'm not the biggest Burn fanatic on the planet, hey, I really liked the first Beetlejuice, so I guess that's really telling. Because honestly, the only things I'd like from Burton at the time were like his Batman movies, and that was pretty much it. And also a little fun fact, if you notice, this is the first time in a Tim Burton movie that we've seen Michael Keaton and Danny DeVito in there together. I mean, they didn't really interact together, kind of together, but you get what I mean. They're in the same film. So I think first off, the first of the major problems we see in the movie is actually Lydia Dietz, and where she sort of starts out at the beginning of the movie. At the end of the first Beetlejuice, she promises not to exploit the ghosts, mainly the Maitlands, in the house that the Dietzes moved in. But now, for some reason, at the beginning of Beetlejuice 2, she has a role as a TV show host where she exploits ghosts, even though she kind of said that's what she wasn't going to do at the end of the first film, but whatever, I guess. But not to mention, there's just way too many subplots in this movie. We have a plot with Lydia and her mother and Astrid Dietz, and then there's just a whole bunch of other stuff tangled up with Beetlejuice himself. But I feel like one or two of them probably should have been cut, so... And coming out of this movie, I think one or two subplots should have been removed. They either should have removed, one, Justin Theroux's subplot with Lydia, and removed that entirely, or two, the movie should have removed Astrid's subplot with the boy who ended up turning on her, because honestly, this is where it starts to become a little too full in a short amount of time. Now, the problem at this point is you can't just edit these out of the movie and expect it to not be an incoherent mess with obvious scenes missing, because with all these subplots going on, it's too intertangled with everything else in the story. So if you were going to remove the subplot with Astrid's boyfriend, for example, then there's going to be scenes missing. It's like, okay, but why is she in the afterlife now? But if you remove Justin Theroux, then that gets too intertangled, and yeah, this is where Tim Burton probably should have went back into the film and worked on maybe a second, third, or even fourth draft, if that meant maybe having something a little more polished. But on another positive note, I mean, hey, Michael Keaton is still killing it as Beetlejuice, so... Even 30-some years later, he still has all the right beats down. And I mean, sure, he looks a little older and fatter, but honestly, I think that really fits the character at this point. Jenna Ortega also pretty much kills it in this movie. Now, I didn't see the Wednesday Addams series that she was in, nor have I really seen her a lot in, well, pretty much anything else. But she really takes this role and makes it her own. So... thankfully, Jenna Ortega can at least stand on her own 2 feet. And then there's the thing with Jeffrey Jones' character, who is, of course, well, is and is not in the movie. And the reason for Jeffrey Jones not being cast in this movie was apparently a decade or two ago he did some, let's just say, some pretty disgusting things with kids. So Hollywood's not going to be exactly casting him in this sort of project anytime soon. But the movie did have a clever way of including him in, well, half of him literally in there. And yeah, the voice work done to his bottom half wasn't exactly him. I mean, you could obviously tell. But it was a semi-clever way of including him in the movie, but also, well, not really. I should also note that the Maitlands, played by Gina Davis and Alec Baldwin, are not in this movie. Which I understand Tim Burton wanted to focus more on the deets and make it more their story. But the first Beetlejuice is really, I just centered around the Maitlands so much that their absence this time around just feels kind of awkward, I guess. I guess their only explanation in the movie for why they're not in there is because they quote, I forget if it was Lydia or Astrid that mentioned it, they said that they moved on. So I'm going to take it maybe they just accepted the whole afterlife thing or found another house to live in. I don't know, but I think their absence is a little weird. I don't know, considering the star-studded cast, why we couldn't have included Alec Baldwin and Gina Davis in there. I mean, I think it would have worked if they would have included at least, one of them in a small role, but whatever, I guess. So yeah, their absence in this movie, it feels a little strange. And from a special effects standpoint, you can also see that Tim Burton is also doing his little stop motion thing he's doing in his little Burton aesthetic, which was a nice change of pace to see after all the computer-generated imagery we seem to be getting from movies nowadays. Some people are going to complain that the special effects in this movie look bad, but you know what? It's stop motion, it's charming, and who cares? So, in a nutshell, that's Beetlejuice 2. So, I think overall, it's fine. We've had far better. I mean, obviously, the original movie is better than this. But again, we've had far worse this decade. We've had far worse this year. I've seen far worse, really, in general. So I think it's just a fine movie. So please check it out before it leaves theaters. And otherwise, that's all I have for today. So thank you for tuning into this review, and see ya.